to get a little less brutal. And there are more details at W5FC.org. Near-term announcements, I'd like to remind everyone that, of course, this is not our last net of the evening. We do have the Afterglow Movie Net coming up tonight at 10:30 p.m. And tomorrow is a night of nets, too, with the Meeting on the Air at 7 p.m. and the Races Training Net at 8 p.m. The Meeting on the Air is open to any amateur who'd like to share what's been going on in their ham world. And the Races Training Net, well, unfortunately, only Races appointed stations can check in, but everyone is welcome to listen to the training presentation. There's always something new and interesting. We also have a lecture and lab coming up. Next Saturday, you need $45 in a laptop, but you're going to learn to do something really amazing, so I hope you get there early. Lots of stuff, and details are always at W5FC.org.
Very good, Tony. I think that's it. Does anyone need any fills? Please come now.
Oh, sorry, I can't believe I didn't end with NT5TM. NT5TM.
That's okay, Tony. I always try and end my transmissions with NT5TM, no matter where and when I am on the radio. So it's okay. You're fine. And let's see, John over in Austin, John Stewart over in Austin, he listens into our Skynet. Geez, it sounds like a radio program. But at any rate, John, thanks for checking in as well over on, Facebook. Let's see here. Where are we at? Let me go ahead and ask if there's any additional announcements. Please come now. Additional check-ins, please come now. Let's get the show on the road. Let's see, I do have one announcement myself. Tonight's Afterglow Movie, which is becoming kind of fun in and of itself, 10:30 p.m. this evening after this net, let me go ahead and give my personal announcement on this, and this is as follows. Stay with us, we're RBS. Tonight it's hilarity gone wild when a lonely and single school bus driver falls in love with an U.S. Air Force Titan II ICBM officer. Will he turn the launch keys of her heart? Find out in the new comedy Driven to Extinction at 7 p.m. Then at 8 p.m., RBS presents Special Bulletin with John Woodley and Susan Miles as they update us on the hot topics of 1983. Dangerous liaisons, rogue VHS renters who don't rewind, and Oh Mickey, You're Not So Fine, the music of Tony A. Basil, and finally, So You Built Your Own Thermonuclear Device, Now What? Join us for a night to remember, a night of top TV entertainment, a night where we RBS. The next Afterglow TV movie, sounds redundant, Special Bulletin. 1983, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Even if you haven't seen it, check in. It'll be an interesting discussion. You can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, which is w5fc.org. Find out all the latest on the club. I'll go ahead and ask, let's see, is anyone from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas on frequency would like to talk about TAS? Please come now. hearing on, just to remind everyone, you can go to the, let's see, what is the website? It used to be TAS Observing. Let's see, texasastro.org. That's where you will go, find out information about local Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events and where and when you can see through a telescope. It is a very good website, as well as a well-appointed calendar. You can go every night of the week, every Saturday, I shouldn't say every night of the week, every Saturday, and you can go find out where you can see a star party. Obviously tonight is not one of those nights, but if it's clear, and they will let you know on the website or on their Facebook page, which is Texas Astronomical Society, you can find out the latest and greatest there. So they do have on the website, if you look for calendar, you'll find out what is going on both during the week and on weekends. And that is texasastro.org. Right, well, we had some quick reshufflings this weekend, so I had to come in and do a few changes, but that's okay. Tonight's topic of the evening is top astronomy websites on the internet. Now, I picked a site. It was kind of cool in that it came from the Astronotes website. Obviously, they felt that they had done a pretty good job doing websites. So I went ahead and went with their list. They're rather interesting. They may not even be the most popular websites, but I think they're very good websites. It comes from, the top 10 here come from locations. They named number 10, one of their favorites, the Northern Ireland Amateur Astronomy Society, the North Ireland Amateur Astronomy Society. And it looks suspiciously a lot like our Texas Astro website that we were talking about. It's a local club, well, local to them at least, and they talk about what they do and their meetings and what all happens. You might want to check it out just as something to compare against. I think you'll find it quite interesting. And let's see here. Oh, good. The thing disappeared. All right, fine. I will just go through them. You can go to W5FC.org. You'll find the information there. Apparently my link has disappeared. Oh boy, oh joy, what a surprise. It's been a real interesting week. So they say in the north of Ireland, we were lucky to have two astronomical societies to get dedicated to night sky viewing, providing telescope advice and generally bringing astronomy to the masses. These sites provide a great source of information on events both at home and abroad, and have forums to help with any night sky or equipment queries. From personal experience, both societies are brilliant and excellent at what they do. If you haven't visited their respective websites, they're well worth the visit. The next site is kidsastronomy.com. This is pretty good site. It says if you have children or are a big kid yourself, this website is for you. Both videos and games, the kids will have hours of fun whilst learning more about our world and the solar system at the same time. It even has information on topics such as comets and meteorites. Working with the education team at the planetarium, this person says, I know that one of the topics, one of the most common questions kids ask is, how does a black hole work? Well, today I learned from this website the black hole uses the power of gravity to pull things toward it. Even adults can learn from this website too. The site is very easy to navigate, and the information is in digestible chunks. Well, black hole chunks, I guess. on the list is AstronomyNow.com. Astronomy Now is a great monthly magazine available to purchase, but they have a very good website with astronomy news. You can read some of their articles online, and it could inspire you to take a subscription. The archive of articles is extensive and well worth the visit. They also provide a really nice printable star chart. The site is universetoday.com. This is one that I like. Looking to keep up to date with all the latest space-related news? If the answer is yes, then Universe Today is for you. This blog is jam-packed, full of the latest astronomical news and events, and encourages comments from visitors. It also boasts a great way for other blogs and websites to get involved through its Carnival of Space feature. Each week, a different webmaster or blogger hosts the carnival. There they get the opportunity to showcase articles written on a topic of space. If you're just starting out, it's a great way to reach the masses with your articles. Woof, woof. UniverseToday.com. That's number 7. Number 6 is Slate.com. Slate.com, you say? Formerly known as Bad Astronomy on the Discover website, this blog now resides at Slate.com and contains interesting and thought-provoking stories. The popularity of the blog can be seen through many comments and are left after each article, tweets on Twitter, and the likes on Facebook. As an example, a story about black holes, there we go again, posted 2 days ago, already has 422 comments, 2,995 likes on Facebook, and has been tweeted 535 times. This is an amazing amount of feedback in just 48 hours. If you get to the Bad Astronomy section, not black hole astronomy, Bad Astronomy section on this website, just click on Health and Science on the homepage where you will find other related topics and blogs. Then just look at the Bad Astronomy link. That's been around for a very long time. It's a pretty cool blog that has been going on for many years. Number 5, Space.com, another favorite of mine. Launched in 1999, figuratively and literally, I guess, Space.com claims to be the world's #1 source for news of astronomy, sky watching, space exploration, commercial space flight, and related technologies. It does truly have the latest discoveries, missions, trends, and futuristic ideas. This is one of my favorite sites from the look and feel of the website. I love the black background with what looks like meteors. It gives it that nice spacey feel. It also really easy to navigate around and has a really nice shop to get some of the ideas on astronomical gifts for birthdays, Christmas, or as a special treat for yourself. Their stories are short, sharp, and to the point, which is great, and a feature I really enjoy is their image of the day. Yeah, I agree with all of that. Definitely a favorite site. I always go there. If it's not SpaceX.com, which is one of my favorite sites for launches, Space.com is just as good. Now, SkyandTelescope.com. I will tell you something. It was the first astronomy magazine I ever bought, Sky and Telescope. I bought mine in first copy in 1970. It's now available online. Sky and Telescope is a magazine available to purchase, but it's also a great website full of information, interesting articles, and up-to-date space-related news. What I like about the website is it gives you beginner guidelines in all things astronomy, from stargazing to astrophotography. Another really great, nice feature on this website is this week's Sky at a Glance. Here you can study objects that you can expect to see in the night sky if it is nice and clear. It gives information on easy-to-spot constellations, the moon phases, and contains a planet watch. It is number 4 on my list for a reason. Give it a visit. And by the way, while it says it is for purchase, a lot of the Sky and Telescope and many of the websites that are mentioned here have a lot of for free, including what you can see in the sky this week. All right, here's one, and we do read from this site, heavens-above.com, heavensabove.com. Okay, I'll let you in on a little secret. This is my secret obsession. I love this website. You can get star charts, information on the solar system, and so much more. It looks very basic, but the reason why I speak so highly of Heavens Above is because it gives you up-to-date information on the greatest man-made structure in space, the International Space Station. All you have to do is input your location, and it will tell you when the space station will appear. There'll be weeks when it won't be visible overhead, then all of a sudden you'll have weeks filled full of the ISS spotting. The website also gives information on the brightness of the ISS, the height, and how long it will be visible for. When you see the space station from Earth, it will look like a tiny bright star moving across the sky. Some people mistake it as an aeroplane, and some could even believe it's a UFO. If you do nothing today, please visit this site and see if the space station is visible tonight. When you spot it, just think there are astronauts and cosmonauts looking right back down at you, and they probably are. And of course, we always, every week, give information when we have time from Heavens-Above. It also includes really great information on amateur satellites going overhead, so you can do contacts via that as well. It does not require any special software or hardware. All you have to do is have a web browser, go there, plug in your coordinates, and you're ready to go. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight. Skynet, number 2 on the list. NASA.gov. How could we not add them into the list? No list would be complete if it didn't list the official NASA website in the top 10. There's so much information on the site it would take an eternity to sift through and read everything. There's information to suit amateur and professionals alike interested in all things space. Favorite parts of the site are the videos and images. NASA provides an Image of the Day feature, which provides some amazing and wonderful images, and the NASA TV is also a favorite alongside their Twitter feed containing tweets from the astronauts. This is the ultimate website for space fanatics. I absolutely agree. And then from the folks who provided this top 10 comes from Astronotes. This is AmaPlanet.com, ARMAGHLANET.com. They say the following: I have put the Astronotes blog on as number 1. If you're reading this article and have a glance through the other articles on the blog, you see why it's number 1. Our Astronotes blog has all the latest news and views on fascinating worlds of astronomy and space exploration. The articles are written by the staff here at Planetarium, and the blog is produced and maintained by our science communicator, Colin Johnston. Articles are categorized into 6 headings: the solar system, our galaxy, universe, space flight, monthly sky notes, and the weird and the fun. We always try to produce relevant news, interesting stories, and have a bit of fun at the same time. I hope you agree that it is great. We're always welcoming comments and love answering queries and enjoy debate produced through our blog. So if you're reading our articles, leave us a comment. So this is the ARMAGHPlanet.com, and they have a /blog on there. If you go to the links at W5FC.org, click on the active link for discussion topic of the evening, you'll find all of these articles and what they had to say about them. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. Give me a second here. Let me check some. audio died over on the stream. My apologies. Don't know why. Everything got changed. So this is KE5ICX. Let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to switch over to what you can see in the sky this evening and see if I can restore the audio. Then I'll come back and do earthsky.org and what you can see in the next couple of weeks. So let me go ahead and do that. Let me switch to Miss Carolyn, KC5OZT. Would you like to go ahead and give us information on Constellation Sagittarius, please?
Okay, and it's one of the largest southern constellations, and easy to find. It lies in the Milky Way. This contains a galactic center, in fact, and it's the 15th largest constellation in the sky. In Greek mythology, Sagittarius represents a centaur. It's a creature with the torso of a man and the body and four legs of a horse. And it's depicted as aiming an arrow toward the heart of the neighboring constellation Scorpio, represented by Antares. And there's three stars that sort of mark the archer's bow. They're Epsilon, Delta, and Lambda. If you look on the star chart, I should mention that I sent over some star charts and photos of a lot of these objects. And another star, it's not remarkable, it's Alpha Sagittarius. It's known as Rukbat, I guess. It's R-U-K-B-A-T. A blue dwarf, class B, magnitude 3.9. But in fiction, Rukbat is probably best known for Man McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Pern series of novels and stories. Pern, the planet where everything takes place, orbits Rukbat, which is described there as a class G yellow star. But and another star that may have figured in a historic moment is Tau Sagittarius, an orange giant star, class K, magnitude 3.3. Tau, known to astronomers, is the closest visible star to the origin of what's known as the WOW signal, the first and only radio signal ever received. It indicated the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence. And some of y'all may be old enough to remember when this came out in the news, but the signal was received by SETI researcher Dr. Jerry Ehman, or E-H-M-A-N, August 15th of 1977 at Ohio State. It lasted a full 72 seconds, but has never been detected since. Well, when he discovered it, he printed his findings out on the readout, circled the signal, and wrote "Wow" next to it, which is how the signal got its name. A beautiful star and is called the Pistol Star, one of the most luminous stars known. It's a blue variable and located in the galactic center region. It's about 25,000 light years away. If we didn't have the interstellar dust in the way, even with its distance, it would be a fourth magnitude star, visible to the naked eye. And the star got its name after the shape of the nebula it illuminates, called the Pistol Nebula. And it's a beautiful sight. All right, and then, of course, Sagittarius is known for its asterism, the teapot. Some of the brightest stars in the Sagittarius, Delta, Epsilon, Gamma 2, Lambda, Zeta, Phi, Tau, Sigma. They form an asterism known as a teapot. And if you look at the chart of it, you can see how it does resemble a teapot with a body, a lid, a handle, and with Gamma 2 marks the tip of the spout. But Sagittarius is loaded with deep sky objects. And one is Sagittarius A, a radio source at the center of the Milky Way. It's hidden by dust clouds, but it consists of the supernova remnant, Sagittarius A East, the spiral structure Sagittarius A West, and a bright radio source located at the center, known as Sagittarius A. The remnant known as the East is believed to be a remnant of the explosion of a star that came close to the central black hole and is gravitationally pressed. In the west appears like a three-armed spiral made of clouds of dust and gas that circle the Sagittarius A and fall onto it at high velocities. And this is the leading candidate for the location of the supermassive black hole believed to be at the center of the Milky Way. And out of, like I say, this is loaded with great objects to observe. We'll start with M8, the Lagoon Nebula, at magnitude 6, and a Mission Nebula. It's one of only two nebula of star-forming regions that can be seen with the naked eye. And at the center of the lagoon, we have the Hourglass Nebula with several, what's called Herbig-Haro objects. They think they're newly born stars in the vicinity, and these show direct evidence of star-forming activity. And then we have a beautiful nebula, M17, known as the Omega Nebula, or also as the Swan, the Horseshoe, or the Lobster. It's magnitude 6, and like I say, it goes by many different names. It contains an open cluster of 15 hot young stars, which illuminate the gases of this Mission Nebula. And marked, we have a nice open star cluster, M18, at magnitude 7.5. And if you want to look for it, it's between M17 and M24. And another showpiece of this constellation is M20, the Trifid Nebula, or Trifid, whichever way you want to pronounce it. But it's a bright, colorful emission reflection nebula, magnitude 6.3. And it's a combination. The lower part is an emission nebula, and the upper part is reflection nebula. If that's not enough, it also has an open cluster. It's a stellar nursery full of baby stars, and it's easily observed through a small telescope. And then we get to M22, known as the Sagittarius cluster. And this is one of the brightest globular star clusters. It's elliptical in shape at magnitude 5.1. It's one of the nearest globular star clusters to Earth. And it's located near the central group of stars in the Milky Way. And it's known for being one of only 4 known globular clusters that also contain a planetary nebula. And this planetary nebula in the cluster is believed to be only about 6,000 years old. Then we have the Sagittarius star cloud, M24. And as the name says, it's a star cloud. It's the most dense concentrations of stars that can be seen with binoculars. There's about 1,000 stars visible within a single field of view. And this is part of the Sagittarius or Sagittarius Carina spiral arm of the Milky Way, which is notable for containing a large number of clouds and young stars. And then we have M25, an open cluster, magnitude 4.6. That makes a nice object for binoculars. And M28, a nice globular cluster. This is located near Lambda on the chart, and it's magnitude 7.6, so you'd need a scope, but it was the first globular star cluster in which a millisecond pulsar was discovered in 1986. And then we have M54. And this is also a globular cluster, a very dense one, magnitude 8.3. And it's close to the star Zeta, which helps you find it. It's believed to belong to what's called the Sagittarius dwarf elliptical galaxy. Now, what is that, do you say? This dwarf is a magnitude 4.5, is an elliptical galaxy shaped like a loop. It's a satellite galaxy of the Milky Way and is actually headed for a collision with our galaxy. Its ellipse is already extended around our galaxy, and the main cluster will pass through the Milky Way in the next 1,000,000 years. And it's believed to have orbited the Milky Way about 10 times in the last 1,000,000,000 years or so. And it's a very old galaxy. We have a couple more globulars that make good targets for amateur scopes. We have M55, a pretty large and bright globular at magnitude 7.4, and M69 at magnitude 8.3, and that's actually located near the galactic center. So Sagittarius is just, like I say, just loaded. You can spend a month, or, well, as long as it's in sight, you can find something new to observe. So take a tour of it. I know you'll enjoy it. So unless there's any questions, Tom, I'll turn it back to you.
KG5P.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn. Good description. Sagittarius is probably my favorite constellation. When I go to the Texas Star Party, I spend about half the time looking at Sagittarius and the other half looking at everything else. KG5P.
Easy to do. Okay, Tom, I'll turn it back to you, KC50ZT.
All right, very good. Thank you, Miss Carolyn. Very interesting, very densely populated constellation. This is KE5ICX on net control for tonight. Skynet. I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from, and I'll put you on the list.
KE5RRR, Highland Park. OXC, Lower Greenville.
Right, net recognizes KE5RRR. That's Trevor, I know, because you've checked in before over in Highland Park. KE5OXE in Lower Greenville. Could I have your name, please?
This is Carter. KD0OXE, Kilo Delta Zero Oscar X-Ray Charlie.
Good. Thanks, Carter, for checking in, and Trevor as well. Good to see you both on the net. And let's see here. What are we doing next? Oh, I got to go back up to what you can see in the sky over the next couple of weeks. And this is KE5ICX. I won't forget. Oh, I've got K5JDW. He's checked in as well, John, in his summer home in Norman, Oklahoma. See if I missed anyone over there. Okay. Sorry, guys, about the Facebook audio. That's now fixed. Okay, so earthsky.org/tonight. This is a great website. It's not only for tonight, but throughout the week. They give you things to look at each evening. Well, we don't have a very good evening tonight to look at the stars, but this is what they do say. For August 18th through the 20th, use the moon to find the star Antares and the planet Saturn on the sixth planet outward from the sun. Antares is reddish while Saturn is golden. You'll find you'll be able to tell that Antares twinkles while Saturn shines through the steadier light. Mind that the moon on our sky chart appears larger than it does in the real sky. Antares, the brightest star in the constellation Scorpius the Scorpion, represents Scorpion's beating heart. This red gem of a star is truly enormous, with a radius in excess of 3 astronomical units. 1 AU is the Earth's average distance from the sun. If by some bit of magic Antares were suddenly substituted for our sun, the surface of the star would extend well past the orbit of Mars. Antares' ruddy complexion reveals that this star has a low surface temperature. However, Antares great size makes up for its low surface temperature to shine as a first magnitude brightness in Earth's sky. That's in spite of the fact that Antares lies nearly 600 light years away. In the visible spectrum, this red giant star has a luminosity of about 10,000 suns. But if we could include invisible infrared radiation, Antares might be as much as 60,000 times the sun's luminosity. To the website, you'll find there is a comparison of the sun to Antares. And it says, now let's turn our attention to the golden Saturn. As you gaze Saturn, think about the indomitable Cassini spacecraft orbited the ring planet from 2004 to 2017. A year ago, in mid-September in 2017, the spacecraft, which had run out of fuel, dive-bombed into the planet's atmosphere. More about Saturn. Saturn is the most distant world you can easily see with your unaided eye, plus you can view Saturn's majestic rings with nothing more than a modest backyard telescope. All the four outer planets orbiting the sun outside the asteroid belt include Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, have a ring system of sorts. But Saturn's rings are the most spectacular by leaps and bounds. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are all gas giants, although Uranus and Neptune are sometimes referred to as ice giants. Overall, gas giants and ice giant planets have no solid surfaces. The smaller four inner planets with solid surfaces, that's Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, are called terrestrial or rocky planets. No rings around any terrestrial solar system planets at present. Is there some reason why gas and ice giants have rings, whereas the terrestrial planets don't? Well, that's a question. It says it turns out that all of the planets, Earth included, did have rings at one time. The thing is that these rings were unstable and the material was either lost to space or collected into satellites of these planets. The difference between the terrestrial and giant planets have a gravity to capture and hold onto the large satellite system, and these satellite systems are the source of the ring material. It's thought that Mars' inner moon, Phobos, might break up and form a ring around Mars some 50 million years from now. That's because the moon is below the synchronous orbit radius, the distance at which the moon orbits Mars in the same time period that Mars rotates upon its axis. Because Phobos' orbit is unstable, this moon is slowly but surely plunging toward its day of reckoning. The bottom line is, the supergiant Antares shines red in our sky, and the planet Saturn, glorious ring world, shines golden. See them near the moon on August 18th through the 20th of this year. From the U.S. Naval Observatory, this is what you can see in the sky this week. Some of this has already happened, others have not. So let's see, today is the 18th. The moon waxes on the evening sky this week, gliding by 3 planets as it courses through the southern reaches of the ecliptic. First quarter occurs on the 18th at 3:48 Eastern Time. Luna begins this week close to the bright glimmer of Venus, 6 degrees northeast of the dazzling planet, as dusk falls on the 14th. On the 16th and 17th, you'll find her on either side of Jupiter as twilight fades to full darkness. She ends the week in the company of Saturn, just 4 degrees northwest of the ring planet on the evening of the 20th. The hot, muggy days of August are often referred to as the dog days, a description that conjures up panting canines lolloping in the shade with panting tongues hanging out. The expression has been around for quite some time, and it commemorates an astronomical event which dates back thousands of years to the earliest traces of civilization. helical rise of the brightest star in the sky, Sirius. This is the time when the star becomes visible just before sunrise, and it has long been associated with the hottest days of summer. Ancient Egyptians noticed that the event coincided with the annual flood of the Nile, and the starting of the earliest dynastic times became the anchor for their solar calendar. However, their civil calendar of 365 days lost a full day in the solar calendar every 4 years. After 1,460 of these civil calendar years, the helical rise of Sirius once again coincided with the first day of the civil calendar. The fact that this coincidence was recorded 3 times through the course of Egyptian history is a testament to the durability of their culture. The significance of the helical rise of Sirius continued in ancient Greek and Roman culture. The star its current name, which translates loosely as the scorching one, since it was believed that the light of the star as a helical rise added to that of the sun caused the hottest days of summer. In Roman sky lore, Sirius became associated with the constellation Canis Major, the larger dog, and the days around the helical rise became known as the Dies Canicelarum. Canicelarum. I know, Canis is in there somewhere. That's dog. Yeah, that much I know. In Egypt, the helical rise of Sirius occurred in late July. At the latitude of Rome, the event occurred in early August. If you're vacationing at a place with an unobstructed view of the southeast horizon, look to the southeast about 20 minutes before sunrise. If you see Sirius in the brightening morning twilight, you are witnessing one of the oldest astronomical sightings ever made by humans. And this is KE5ICX. If you were skunked by the rainy weather that washed out the peak of the Perseid meteor shower, you may still have a few more nights to look for shower stragglers. On the nights leading up to the first quarter moon, you still may be able to catch 5 to 10 Perseids per hour after local midnight. There's also an enhanced number of sporadic meteors during this time of the year. Now onto the planets. Venus reaches her greatest elongation east of the sun on the 17th. At this time, she'll be 46 degrees from Old Sol. Her position along the southern ecliptic means the best views of her will be from the southern hemisphere. Here in the temperate northern climates, she is only about 15 degrees above the western horizon as evening twilight begins to fade. Through the telescope, she resembles the moon at first quarter phase. Jupiter is still prominent in the southwest as twilight darkens and still dominates the early evening sky. This week, Old Joe passes just a half a degree north of the second magnitude star, Zobe Genobi. Hey, pretty good, huh? The pair form an attractive sight in binoculars or low-power telescope, and you still have an hour or so to get a closer view before the giant planet sinks into the horizon haze. Saturn is the current showpiece of the night, standing above the southern horizon at around 10 p.m. This is the best time to view him in a telescope, and with his rings presenting their widest tilt to our line of sight, he should present quite a view in almost any instrument. And then finally, Mars is receding from his close approach at the end of July, but he's still a brilliant red-tinted beacon in the southeastern sky. His visible apparent disk is slowly beginning to shrink, but is still about 23 arc-seconds across. The global dust storm that has been hampering views of his surface features are finally beginning to abate. You should be able to make out some of the details in a 4-inch or larger telescope. And that's it as far as what you can see in the sky this evening. And this is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. Let's see here. I'll go ahead and pause and see if there's any additional check-ins. Like, join us. Please come now with your call sign, your location, your name and your location. Please come now.
This is Kilo Juliet 7 Alpha Charlie Foxtrot, Paya, Idaho, U.S.
All right, let's see here. I have Kilo Juliet 7 Alpha Oscar Sierra. I hope I got that right. If you could give me your name and your location or correction on your call sign. Go ahead.
Call sign is Kilo Juliet 7 Alpha Charlie Foxtrot, and I am in Payette, Idaho, United States.
Okay, very good. I've got you over on Echolink. Kilo Juliet 7 Alpha Charlie Foxtrot in Payette, Idaho. Could I get your name, please?
Yeah, sure, no problem. It's Mike.
Good, thanks. KJ7ACF, Mike over in Payette, Idaho. Welcome. We're here every Saturday night from 9 until 10:30 Central Time, and you're welcome to stay tuned. We do talk about movies at 10:30. Tonight's movie is Special Bulletin from 1983. Just thought I'd mention that. All right, let's move on to Miss Brenda, WB50ZL. What do you have on recent astronomical discoveries?
Thanks, Tom. This is WB50ZL. The first article is entitled Structurally Inside-Out Planetary Nebula Discovered. The Instituto de Astrofísica de Andalucía, I butchered that, in Spain, the Laboratory for Space Research, LSR, and the University of Hong Kong, HKU, and an international team comprising scientists from Argentina, Mexico, and Germany have discovered the unusual evolution of the central star of a planetary nebula in our Milky Way. This extraordinary discovery sheds light on the future evolution and, more importantly, the ultimate fate of the Sun. The discovery of a structurally inside-out planetary nebula, the ionized material that surrounds a white dwarf, was just reported online in Nature Astronomy. This is also the 8th research paper produced by HKU LSR with its international collaborators in the Nature Journal since 2017. Believes this inverted ionization structure of the nebula is resulted from the central star undergoing a born-again event, ejecting material from its surface and creating a shock that excites the nebular material. Planetary nebulae are ionized clouds of gas formed by the hydrogen-rich envelopes of low and intermediate mass stars ejected at late evolutionary stages. As these stars age, they typically strip their outer layers, forming a wind. As the star transitions from its red giant phase to become a white dwarf, it becomes hotter and starts ionizing material in the surrounding wind. This causes the gaseous material closer to the star to become highly ionized, while the gas material further out is less so. Setting the planetary nebula HUVI-1 17,000 light years away and nearly 5 billion years ahead of our solar system in evolution. However, Dr. Martin Guerrero et al. Found the reverse. HUVI-1's inner regions are less ionized, while the outer regions more so. Analyzing the central star with the participation of top theoretical physicists, all this found that it is surprisingly cool and metal-rich, and is evolved from a low-mass progenitor star which has a mass 1.1 times of the Sun. Suggests that the inner nebula was excited by the passage of a shock wave caused by the star ejecting matter unusually late in its evolution. The stellar material cooled to form circumstellar dust, obscuring the star. This well explains why the central star's optical brightness has diminished rapidly over the past 50 years. In the absence of ionizing photons from the central star, the outer nebula has become recombining, becoming neutral. The authors conclude that as HUBI-1 was roughly the same mass as the Sun, its finding provides a glimpse of a potential future for our solar system. Dr. Zhuan Fang, co-author of the paper and postdoctoral fellow at the HKU LSR and Department of Physics, said the extraordinary discovery resolves a long-lasting question regarding the evolutionary path of metal-rich central stars of planetary nebula. Dr. Fang has been observing the evolution of HUBI-1 early since 2014 using the Spanish flagship telescope, Nordic Optical Telescope, and was among the first astrophysicists to discover its inverted ionization structure. He said, after noting HUB1's inverted ionization structure and the unusual nature of its central star, we looked closer to find the reasons in collaboration with top theoretical astrophysicists in the world. We then came to realize that we had caught HUBI-1 at the exact moment when its central star underwent a brief born-again process to become a hydrogen-rich, poor, WC, and metal-rich star, which is very rare in white dwarf stars evolution. Dr. Fang, however, said the discovery would not alter the fate of the Earth. He remarked, our findings suggest that the star may also experience a born-again process while it is dying out in about 5 billion years from now. But way before that event, our Earth will be engulfed by the Sun when it turns into a super-hot red giant and nothing living will survive. HKU LSR Acting Director Professor Quentin Parker is exceptionally pleased with the findings of this international collaboration. He said, I'm delighted by this latest important contribution by Dr. Zhuan Fang, who played a key role in this very unusual discovery of the international project. Astronomers observe cosmic stream jets and molecules galore. The ALMA telescope in Chile has transformed how we see the universe, showing us otherwise invisible parts of the cosmos. This array of incredibly precise antennas studies a comparatively high-frequency sliver of radio light, waves that range from a few tenths of a millimeter to several millimeters in length. Recently, scientists pushed ALMA to its limits, harnessing the array's highest frequency, shortest wavelength capabilities, which peer into a part of the electromagnetic spectrum that straddles the line between infrared light and radio waves. High-frequency radio observations like these are not normally possible from the ground, said Brett McGuire, a chemist at the National Radio Astronomy Observation in Charlottesville, Virginia, and lead author on a paper appearing in Astrophysical Journal Letters. They require the extreme precision and sensitivity of ALMA, along with some of the driest and most stable atmospheric conditions that can be found on Earth. Ideal atmospheric conditions, which occurred on the evening of 5 April 2018, astronomers trained ALMA's highest frequency sub-millimeter vision of a curious region of the Cat's Paw Nebula, also known as NGC 3341, a star-forming complex located about 4,300 light-years from Earth in the direction of the southern constellation Scorpius. Previous ALMA observations of this region at lower frequencies uncovered turbulent star formation, a highly dramatic environment, and a wealth of molecules inside the nebula. To observe at higher frequencies, the ALMA antennas are designed to accommodate a series of bands, number 1 to 10, that each study a particular sliver of the spectrum. Band 10 receivers observe at the highest frequency, shortest wavelengths, of any of the ALMA instruments, covering wavelengths from 0.3 to 0.4 millimeters, 787 to 950 gigahertz, which is also considered to be long wavelength infrared light. These first of their kind ALMA observations with band 10 produced 2 exciting results. This is a really long article, probably not going to finish the whole thing. I'll read for a couple more minutes. One of ALMA's first band 10 results was also one of the most challenging, the direct observation of jets of water vapor streaming away from one of the massive protostars in the region. ALMA was able to detect the sub-millimeter wavelength light naturally emitted by heavy water molecules made up of oxygen, hydrogen, and deuterium atoms, which are hydrogen atoms with a proton and a neutron in the nucleus. Normally, we wouldn't be able to directly see this particular signal at all from the ground, said Crystal Brogan, an astronomer at the NRAO and co-author of the paper. Earth's atmosphere, even at remarkably arid places, still contains enough water vapor to completely overwhelm this signal from any cosmic source. During exceptionally pristine conditions in the high Atacama Desert, however, ALMA can in fact detect that signal. This is something no other telescope on Earth can achieve. As stars begin to form out of massive clouds of dust and gas, the material surrounding the star falls onto the mass at the center. A portion of this material, however, is propelled away from the growing protostar as a pair of jets which carry away gas and molecules, including water. Okay, these are both from ScienceDaily.com. I'm going to quit there because this is long, and you can go and see it yourself and read the whole thing. Back to that, WB5OZL.
This is KE5ICX net control for tonight's Skynet. Let's go ahead and pause and ask for any additional check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. I'll put you on the list. You're all down. Well, that's okay. Let's see. Our next segment would be space exploration and space history. Miss Kelly is on secret assignment right now. So secret, we don't know where. Well, we know, but we don't know, but we can't tell you. So she's on secret assignment. We'll see when she comes back. Probably in the next few weeks. So anybody who's interested in doing space exploration or space history and like to step up and talk about that, we'll take you on board as a temp while we wait for Kelly to return. She's had a lot of work elements going on that have really crowded out her fun time. Been there, done that, not fun. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to visible satellite passes over the next couple of days. This comes from one of the websites that was fingered this evening as one of the top 10, heavensabove.com. This is a great site if you're interested in finding astronomical objects, including amateur satellites that also go over, which allow you to do repeater operations in several states with a mere, 3 to 5 watts, something like that. But the ones I'm going to cover are everyone's favorites, the International Space Station, for one. So if you want to go to the website, w5fc.org, you'll find these links. They're based on local Dallas settings. the International Space Station, that's everyone's favorite. August 19th, that would be tomorrow evening if it is clear. I don't know if it is. August 19th has the best pass of minus 2.9 magnitude at 1826 or 626 local time. Out of the northwest, reaches its highest point at 1829 at 50 degrees, and then falls at 1832 in the south-southeast. This 23rd has a nice pass. This one is a minus 3.88 magnitude at 5:02 a.m. out of the west-southwest to reach its highest point at 5:04 at 57 degrees, and then fall at 5:07 out of the north-northeast. Sat is the next satellite that has shown some promise as far as passes. One of the better ones is August 19th, again tomorrow, a 3.2 magnitude, that's positive magnitude, at 1945 out of the south to reach its highest point at 1948 at 69 degrees, so it's a pretty good pass, and the west-southwest, and it'll fall at 1953 local time in the north-northwest. The best pass is August 27th, 2.9 magnitude at 1934, 25 degrees at south-southeast, reached its highest point at 1937 at 87 degrees, or almost directly overhead of the east-northeast, and then it'll fall to the north. This 25th also has a nice pass, 2.9 magnitude at 1922 local time in the evening. The south-southeast reaches its highest point at 1926, and it falls and that's a high of 64 degrees, and then falls at 1931 also to the north. Do you sense a pattern here? Finally, at August 27th, 3.4 magnitude at 1948 at in the south at 26 degrees, reaches its highest point at 1951 at 61 degrees, and then at 1956 falls to the north-northwest. This information is available at heavens-above.com. Go ahead and plug in your coordinates, which is your either zip code or your longitude and latitude, and it'll bring up all of this information as well as the other satellites. Maybe what we should do sometime is focus an evening as a topic of Heavens-Above as a website, talk about all of the features that are there. There are no shortages of things that you can do there. This is KE5ICX. I'm Net Control. We are at the end of the net. I'll take any final check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
Oh, India 5 Lima, Dallas.
I recognize that call sign, KI5L. That's Wiz in Dallas. I recognize that name and voice from my old days over on TrafficNet. I have you checked in. Anyone else? We'll go ahead and close it out then. Tonight we had 30 people participating on the air, including myself. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, and we are always looking for net controls, contact any of the folks who are net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net, astronomy in general, on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Top, and I'll be closing the net at 22:30 local time. 7-3, everybody. Enjoy discovering the universe. And stay tuned. 5 minutes from now, we'll be discussing Special Bulletin, the made-for-TV movie from 1983. You saw it? Great. If you didn't, I think you'll still enjoy the discussion because it's rich with popular comments about news and all of that. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear for now.
Delta Bravo Alpha, monitoring.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Afterglow? This is KE5ICX. Yeah, I'm net control again. Just worked out that way. Isn't that great? So tonight's movie is from 1983. It was a made-for-TV movie called Special Bulletin. Now, it was selected, and I selected it, I guess, but other people have selected other movies, and that's okay. I had not seen this movie since it originally aired in 1983 until I had seen it just last night. So it was enough that I thought, gosh, this is a pretty darn good film, or what I remembered as a pretty darn good film. So here's what we got. This comes from the Wikipedia. This is what they say. Special Bulletin is a 1983 American made-for-television film. It was an earlier collaboration between director Edward Zwick and writer Marshall Herskowitz. I'll say it, hopefully correctly. A team that would later produce such series as 30-something and My So-Called Life. The movie was first broadcast on March 20th, 1983 on NBC as an edition of the NBC Sunday Night at the Movies. In this movie, a terrorist group brings a homemade atomic bomb aboard a tugboat in the harbor of Charleston, South Carolina, in order to blackmail the U.S. government into disabling its nuclear weapons. And the incident is caught live on television. The movie simulates a series of live news broadcasts on the fictional RBS network. I won't read all of this. It's quite detailed because the movie itself at an hour and 40 minutes is quite detailed in and of itself. However, this is what the first few paragraphs from Wiki that they mention. A special bulletin slide interrupts commercials on the fictional RBS television network for its TV shows. TV crew covering a dock worker strike are caught in the middle of a firefight between the U.S. Coast Guard and a group of tugboats and a crew of a tugboat sitting in the dock at Charleston, South Carolina. The Coast Guardsmen surrender and are taken hostage, as are the reporter and the cameraman. The reporter is asked to televise a statement by the terrorists calling for delivery to them of every nuclear trigger device of the U.S. Naval base in Charleston. Without these triggers, nuclear weapons on the naval warships and nuclear-powered submarines based in Charleston cannot be used. The terrorists reveal their motive is to completely disarm America's nuclear weapons, as well as to convince the Soviet Union to do the same, while they believe will completely prevent possible nuclear war. They also mentioned that they have constructed their own nuclear device, one roughly the equivalent of the bomb dropped on Nagasaki in 1945. Their device is set to detonate within 24 hours if their demands are not met, and has anti-tampering devices that will set it off if any attempt is made to move or disarm it. I'll read this next paragraph. It says, details about the terrorists slowly begin to emerge as the broadcast hosted by Susan Miles and veteran newscaster John Woodley, played by Ed Flanders, you may recognize him, continues. The group is led by Bruce Lyman and a scientist and designer of nuclear weapons for the American government. His fellow conspirators include David McKesson, a nuclear scientist who stole weapons-grade plutonium and constructed the bomb, John Sever, a bank robber, Frida Barton, a poet and anti-war activist implicated in a bombing that killed several people a decade earlier, and Diane Silverman, a married social worker who has been friends with Lyman back in college. At first, the government chooses to ignore or underplay the story. McKesson eventually reveals his device to RBS's cameraman. Public announcements include the decision to order the evacuation of downtown Charleston, which causes panic. The government later announces, just before the terrorist deadline, that it would accede to their demand. A van rolls up to the tugboat, allegedly containing first load of nuclear triggers. Now stop there, because that's when the action begins, and we want to talk about that. So this is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. I will go ahead and take check-ins now. If you had an opportunity to at least listen to the plot, I'll go ahead and ask anybody who would like to check in this evening. Please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you saw the movie, and it's okay. You can still participate even if you did not. So I'll take check-ins now. Please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitted from. Let me know if you saw the movie.
This is November 5 Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving. I did see the movie. This is the only time I've seen it.
Eagle Echo 5, Romeo, Holland Park. I did not see the movie.
I did see the movie. Kilo Golf 5 Papa, Mike and Richardson. I did see the movie, and this is the first time I've seen the movie.
Bravo to the Whippy. Jay near Weatherford, temporarily on radio because the situation can handle it. I did see the movie.
5 Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas with Aaron, and we both saw the movie for the first time this week.
WB5OZL, Brendan DeSoto, and yes, I did see the movie.
Alpha Delta 5, Sierra Echo, Chuck Richardson. I watched part of it to prep for this net.
T5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas. I saw the movie.
Golf 5, Zulu, November, Juliet, Frank and Flower Mound, and yes, I did see the movie.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. Yes, I did see the movie. First time to see it.
That was pretty healthy at 10:30 in the evening. Let me go ahead and acknowledge everyone here. I have N5VB, Bill in Irving. Yeah, he saw it. KE5RRR, I believe that's Melvin. He said no, he didn't see the movie. I'll ask later if you have any comments. KF5TSK, Mr. Burrow, Dallas. Yes, he saw the movie. KG5P, Mike and Richardson. Yep. KG5BZWJ on RF in near Weatherford. Yep, he saw it. NT5TM, Tony, Dallas, Aaron, they both saw the movie. I already did that. WB5OZL, Brendan DeSoto. Yep, saw the movie. I have a station, Sierra Echo in Richardson. That sounds like your call. One more time, give me your full call and name, and I'll put you on the list. You were doubled over.
Alpha Delta 5, Sierra Echo. I saw part of the movie. I'm Chuck and Richardson. Roger, I'm Chuck and Richardson. Delta 5, Sierra Echo.
Great, got it. Alpha Delta 5 Sierra Echo, Chuck over in Richardson, and you saw part of the movie. I'll give you a little question mark there. W5EBB, David in Dallas, got you down. KG5 Zulu November Juliet Frank in Flower Mound, you saw the movie. K5 PDS Miss Billy in Sherman, yep, you saw it. K5 GDW John, he is listening over on Echolink. He says no, but he's lurking in the background. Any additional check-ins, please come now.
Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn in Louisville, and I did see the movie.
Right, there was one more station after Cohen, or at least on this round. Try one more time. You were mostly noise. If you can increase power, improve position, and all that jazz, try one more time. I'm going to turn up my volume to 11. I got Dallas, did not see the movie. Anyone have him on reverse? He's extremely weak into the repeater. All right, well, I'll ask for additional check-ins later on. The Dallas station, you were very weak, and my hearing is terrible, so I'll try and get you later on when I come back to the bottom of the list. I knew, Roger, that you did not see the movie, but you are in Dallas, and that's okay. So let's go ahead and start at the top of the list. N5BB, Bill, and then everyone after that. Think about this for a little bit. What did you think of the story? What did you think of the story from this 1983 movie? N5BB. Bill, go ahead.
This is N5BB. I think the story, well, I want to be careful with my wording, but because, of course, it was a horrible story as far as the actual actions. But I thought the story was, for what it was designed to do, was well written and believable. With respect to the story, I want to make a quick comment. This was 35 years ago, this movie came out. It was about 37 years since Hiroshima. So if you take the amount of time between the dropping of the bombs in World War II and now, this movie occurred about halfway between that time. It's kind of amazing to think how long ago it was. About 14 years before this movie came out, my brother, when he was in elementary school, we lived 7 miles from Bergstrom Air Force Base in Austin, where there were B-52s with atomic bombs on them. It was a strategic air command base. For show and tell at school, my brother made a poster up. It showed Bergstrom Air Force Base with concentric rings around it, and our elementary school would have been severely damaged if it had gotten a Russian strike. So that was in the little over a decade before this movie came out. So a lot of people were still thinking about those Cold War things in 1983. N5BB.
Thank you, Bill, and we'll come back to you in a little bit. Let's see here. KE5RRR. Melvin, you didn't see the movie. Do you have any comments at this point, or you just want to pass? K5TSK, Burrow in Dallas. Your comments on this story, the plot. Go ahead.
Well, you know, the plot was good. Some of the facts I thought were, really bad. That, they claim to have a neutron bomb, and a neutron bomb really kills people and doesn't really destroy, property that much. So it was like some things were mixed in, and it's almost like we want to keep it as fiction. That's my comments from now. KF5TSK, back to net.
Hey, Burrow, thanks. I don't remember them saying it was a neutron bomb, but maybe they did, and I missed it. I thought it was just a standard bomb. Standard nuclear bomb, yeah, like there is a standard one. But I could be wrong. Maybe somebody can follow up with that one. KG5P, Mike, over in Richardson. You saw the movie. Your comments on the plot.
Okay, good evening, Tom. Well, I thought the movie was pretty well written, but I did have a few scientific points problems I had with it. I only watched the movie once. I almost thought about watching it another time just to pick up on these, make sure I heard them right. Burl had mentioned about the neutron bomb. That was one of the things I picked up in. The neutron bomb was designed to destroy people and then leave the infrastructure intact. And when Jimmy Carter was president, he stopped the, production and work on neutron bombs. Even though we knew how to build them, he just wouldn't allow them to go in the arsenal because he thought that it was too horrific of a weapon. If you're going to kill people, you might as well blow up everything along with it. So, I didn't quite get if that was a neutron bomb or I know they talked about a neutron bomb. Back in the early 80s, there were an awful lot of nuclear incidences that could have just as easily been terribly disastrous. Russian, for example, is Lieutenant Colonel in the Russian Army, or maybe the Air Force, Stanislav Petrov, who died about a year ago. And in 1983, in the Russian version of Cheyenne Mountain, watching the Russian version of the Dew Line, and he thought the United States was slinging 5 nukes on him, 5 Titan missiles. And, do we want to retaliate or what? Well, this guy Petrov, Colonel Petrov, just based on his own intuition, and he decided to wait and not press the button because, well, first of all, he thought that if a real attack, he'd send more than 5 missiles at us. But it turned out that it was just some cloud formation that their radar picked up. But he could have gone just the other way and launched a counterattack, kind of like Dr. Strangelove kind of deal. And there were quite a few other incidences. There was one that was on PBS about some missile silo in Arkansas where somebody dropped a big old socket wrench, and it fell 75 feet and smashed into a hydrazine tank on one of the missiles, and it looked like unless they could get that fixed real quick, we'd have a super disaster. So yeah, the movie was scary. They took a few liberties with science, but it's one of these things that's not beyond comprehension. I mean, it could happen. It could still happen. It's pretty depressing to think about, but that's the world we live in. KG5P.
Very good, Mike. Thanks for the comments. Appreciate it. Let's see. Next up, KG5BZW. Jay near Weatherford. He's over on RF. Jay, your comments on the plot.
This is KG5BZW. About the bomb, I do know they mentioned the neutron bomb, but I don't remember what exactly that was not I don't remember the exact details of that. The fact that the movie went over and over about were that it was a when they had the news broadcast on the radius of effects and whatnot was comparing to one of the bombs from. I'm sorry, they compared it to one of the bombs from the bomb of the World War II, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and I don't know the entire facts, but I know that at least one of the two bombs was a plutonium bomb. Seems like I recall the other was like a type of uranium bomb, but anyway, I just want to get that out of the way. I have to admit, it was the first 15 minutes, I did not like the time compression. They did not really specify the amount of time that had occurred between broadcasts, or like how they may have described how long before the actual terrorist event, well, the beginning of the terrorist event, if you should call it that, happened. So there just seemed to be a bunch of things that were out of place, especially that 8-track film. That really took me out of it, because I don't know if there was a place in the U.S. that could have developed the film that fast. Frankly, the film got better as it went along, and I found myself really deeply involved with it. I mentioned that there were maybe a few scientific facts that were off about it. I actually also looked in IMDb just for the heck of it. And I can't say, how entirely accurate the bomb explosion was. It's kind of the point of the film, though, regardless of how, the build-up to it or what happened precisely, is that the aftermath is horrible. So, in a way, that's not exactly relevant. I'm sorry, I am taking a little bit of time here, but overall, I didn't. It was I guess there's a way to say this. I enjoyed the film for what it was, and yes, it's also rather scary and haunting film. I think that's all I have to say right now. KG5BZW.
This is KE5ICX Net Control for tonight's Afterglow Movie. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate the comments. Let's see. Next up, NT5TM. Tony, you and Aaron saw the movie. What did you think of the plot?
Usually I'm the Grinch, but tonight I'm not. I think Aaron and I did not agree with Jay. The time compression worked well for us. In any real big, exciting event, there have been times when I wandered away from the TV. I'd have gone to work, I'd have gotten a sandwich, I'd have gone to school, what have you. So it felt very, very realistic to me. Thinking back to newscasts I saw when I was little, this movie felt like everything I saw on newscasts when I was small. I mean, obviously it was made in the 80s, so that makes sense. But the verisimilitude factor was extremely high in the way the information was delivered, the way it was segmented, the way they cut from location to location. Aaron was especially struck where they kept things moving and kept our interest going by switching to different people, getting some background, getting an expert, getting the spokesperson from the White House. Another great part of the plot that Aaron noticed too, and I noticed to some degree, was that, of course, at first the characters are extremely stock characters. You can substitute any news anchor for any other in any major broadcast market or national network, and they're just completely interchangeable. They're all trained to sound the same. But then as the movie went on, they became a little bit more human. Yes, they had stylists to change their clothes and put on their makeup and do their hair, but they were becoming more human. They were wringing their hands. They were fumbling more. They were losing their place. They were getting more worried. Their barriers were breaking down a bit. So the intercutting, the verisimilitude, the pacing of the revelation of details, the gradual breaking down of the barriers between the newscasters and the news, all of those parts of the plot worked extremely well. And the part where we agree with Jay was, at first it just seemed like an exercise in reenacting a news broadcast, but then as it went on, we got more and more into it. It became more and more engaging and very human. So the plot was extremely effective for us. NT5TM.
Good, thank you, Tony. Excellent comments. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, your comments on the plot.
This is WB50ZL. I thought it was good. It moved along at a good clip. The dialogue was tight. It didn't insult our intelligence. It was just totally believable. What's the thing that scares us all the most? The fear of the atomic bomb, which, put me in fear as a child. I thought it was going to drop at any minute. And we've been 70 years like this, just scared to death of it. And, the worst thing is the bomb in the hands of a madman who set up an untenable situation, a hostage situation, which never turns out well. And then the government waited to the last minute. Oh, we're going to go just defuse this bomb. Well, I would have done that several hours earlier. The little plan they had hatched out. That didn't take a whole lot of planning. Bring in a few trucks and the special ops. Why they waited to the last minute is beyond me. I also had the element of the nature of newscasts and their kind of indifference or insatiable appetite for gore. This is in 1983. The year before, that song, Dirty Laundry, came out. The commentary on the nature of the news. And a couple of years later, we had Network. So I think there was kind of a feeling at the time of how inhuman newscasters are and how indifferent they are to the suffering of the people. At least that's what the terrorists thought. That's the way you people are. In fact, they were pretty human by the end of the show. But it doesn't mean they're not going to try and milk everything they can out of it to get ratings. At least the network executives are. All right, back to net, W5OZL.
All right, very good, Miss Brenda. Interesting comments. I'm asteristing everything. Is there a word for that? Asteristing? Let's see. Next up is Alpha Delta 5 Sierra Echo. Chuck in Richardson. You saw part of it. What do you think about the plot? KE5ICX.
I started watching it so that I'd know it was for the net tonight, and I saw about the first 30 minutes of it, and I was really not digging it, so I kind of fast forward to see if the go off, and it obviously did, and I watched the special effects on that. That was pretty cool, but overall, as the previous commenter said, the media, the news media, would love nothing more than to have something like that happen for their ratings, and it's one of the reasons I can't stomach those types of plots. And with that, I'll go back to net.
Very good, Chuck. Thanks. I got you down. And let's see here next. Trying to keep up with the list here. W5EBB, David in Dallas. Your comments on this film, plot-wise?
I thought the plot was good. It was riveting. I mean, it sort of had the War of the Worlds kind of reality to it, which I think, the increasing tension as it developed was done well. Something interesting about this is this aired on NBC and was available on VHS and Betamax. Anybody still have a Betamax player? And it was released on DVD for just 1 year in 2010, and then it was unavailable. It's been unavailable for 7 years. So this was, I think, a unique find. You could call it a diamond in the rough, a needle in a haystack, or maybe an unexploded hidden landmine because of its content. The plot was good, and it smacked somewhat in the nuclear realm of many movies that came out in 1982-83, including The Day After and War Games. And as Mike described the Petrov incident, that sounds a lot like the plot of War Games. So when you watch something like this, you have to ask yourself, is this art imitating life or life imitating art? There's a couple of holes in the plot, though. The Nest operation, when they're trying to defuse the bomb, and they actually have the news camera right there while they're defusing it, and just before that, they say how Nest is a very top secret classified operation, and yet here we're seeing exactly how they're disassembling a bomb or trying to. And one thing that wasn't described in the plot was RBS. What does that stand for? RBs everywhere. Does it represent maybe a roast beef sandwich, Raisin Bran, radioactive bomb station? Maybe that's it. It's plastered across the screen, and it's mentioned, but we never found out what RBS stands for. I thought that was kind of curious. W5EBB.
All right. Thanks, David. Yeah, I wondered about the RBS. Of course, I speculated on my comments before the net. But, okay, let me move on. We've got plenty of folks. Kilo Golf 5, Zulu, November, Juliet, Frank, and Farmer's Branch, I think. I can't read my writing. Frank, tell us what you think about the movie, plot-wise.
Yeah, it's Frank in Flower Mound. I thought the basic idea of it was actually a pretty good idea, but it was a made-for-TV movie, and I think they kind of fell apart a bit in the execution.
I got a kick out of it right away, and you know, mostly because it's like a lot of nostalgia from those years. You forgot how TV news was, and they actually did a pretty good job of imitating it. But like one of the other people said, Leonard Middleman and his Super 8 camera. You know, he's on his pier with a Super 8 camera filming, and literally in about 10 seconds in real time, somehow they developed that film, brought it to a lab, brought it back, and it magically aged about 40 years and had about 40 years worth of scratches on it. Around that time, maybe a year later or so, I did a lot of Super 8 work back then, and at that time, there was only 2 or 3 labs in the entire country. They were all in California, and the turnaround time was about 6 weeks if you were lucky, and that didn't include the very long shipping, unlike today, you know, shipping's fast. Back then, it was not. So I had a really good laugh out of that, and, you know, the goofy assault teams, you know, I think, you know, they just put bad uniforms on people, and they were just fumbling around, and the guy coming out of the ship with his Uzi, like, posing, I just laughed at that goofball, and I don't know, I liked that the movie was obviously decoded from VHS, and it really gave me good memories of going to the independent video store and coming back with an armload of Chuck Norris movies on VHS. So, you know, I enjoyed watching it, but I thought the plot was good, but execution was kind of weak, but it entertained me. That's it.
Hey, thank you, Frank. You've got such great comments. I am tempted to respond, but I'll wait. I'll hold my comments towards the end. KF5 PDS, Miss Billy and Sherman, what did you think about the plot on this movie?
Oh, good evening. Yeah, God, what else could I add? There's so many great things have been said already, and I agree with them all. Even with the time compression, there was a part kind of, you know, I guess about almost third to halfway in, I kind of lost interest and kind of tuned out part until it ramped back up again. But other than that, I thought the pacing was good. And yeah, I remember I was a teenager in the 80s, and I'm surprised I missed this one because I remember seeing War Games, because this came out in March. War Games came out in June, and then, of course, the day after came out in November, and that was forever burned in my brain. That scared the jeepers out of me. I was afraid to go to bed at night after the day after. So I'm surprised I missed it. I'm kind of sorry I missed this one because that would have been interesting. But, yeah, I thought the plot was good. I did like, you know, they really, you know, I guess, you know, nailed the realism and the types of broadcasting, and, you know, as Tony mentioned, the way people were, you know, styled on, you know, and all anchors, you know, were pretty much interchangeable, and the way they talked was the same. But, you know, I just thought it was interesting how they went from very stoic at the beginning. I guess that's more characterization. I'll save that for later. But yeah, I really don't have much to add because I agree with everything that's been said up to this point. Yeah, I didn't hear the word neutron bomb either. I'd have to go back and watch it again because, yeah, this was definitely more of an atomic H-bomb. If they were saying it's like the one in Nagasaki, then definitely wasn't a neutron bomb because all kinds of property was destroyed. So I'd have to go back and watch it for small details. I wish I'd watched it a couple of days ago and had time to watch it again instead of watching it today. But I thought it was good. I liked it. Yeah, you can definitely tell it's a TV movie. Network was so much better, higher production value, you know, feature film. But as a made-for-TV movie, it's fun to go back and watch, you know, a blast from the past. But yeah, the early 80s, I guess after China Syndrome came out in the late 70s, you know, or 79, then the 80s were kind of the nuclear scare decade. After, like, the socially save the environment kind of 70s type movies and the more socially conscious 70s type fare. Now we're getting into technology, the nuclear scare type movies, because later on we had the Manhattan Project, which was a really good movie, and also had Silkwood, which was in the early 80s. So, yeah, the 83 was just really prime time, I guess, for the nuclear scenarios, because we had this and then War Games and Day After. So, anyway, I really can't think of anything else to add because everybody's had such great comments, but I'll probably have some, maybe hopefully some different comments to add during the character round. So with that, I'll return it back to you. This is KF5PDS. Back to net.
This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's movie. We are talking about, believe it or not, a movie from 1983, made-for-TV movie called Special Bulletin. So you can go ahead and Google it if you're listening in. I'm going to take additional check-ins towards the bottom of the list, which we're close to, but not quite there. Let's see. K5, I have checked in K5JDW. John, you got any comments? You did not see the movie, but do you have any comments about what you've heard so far? All right, no John this evening. I'll just mark you as here but absent. KC50ZT, Miss Carolyn in Louisville. You saw the movie. Your comments on the plot?
Well, of course, it's hard to add to quite a lot of everybody has said, but I too grew up, you know, in the time of air raid drills, you know, and the fear of the bomb. And it brought back some of those memories, but it seemed odd that, you know, they would let a cameraman show the inside of the boat, and I mean, a tourist would, you know, and odd, and except maybe they wanted people to know that they had that, but as they went on and you know, it seemed when the night or where the nest invading the ship, you know, and the terrorist in the beginning had said that he was the only one that knew how to defuse it because he designed it. You'd think they would have tried to make a goal of capturing him first and having him defuse it. But, of course, you know, it made it more, I guess, more action this way, but then of the blast, the film they had, and the bright light coming in the window, you'd think that everybody would have been on the ground, you know. It's and of course of the city, you know, it was pretty graphic, you know, and I was impressed with, you could tell the feelings of the news anchors and how they felt in this. Apparently they were on the air for the whole time, you know, I don't know how long. I don't know how long it, remember how long supposedly took, but anyway, it's an impressive movie, though, KT50ZT.
Very good, and this is Carolyn, and I took copious notes on your comments. Let's see here. I've got, over on Echolink, I've got N5IMS. Let's see, that's JJ in Carrollton. He made an interesting comment here, and I want to glob onto this later on. He says, I did appreciate how the newscasters reacted to the explosion and was reminded of two things. One was how Jim McKay reacted to the end of the Munich massacre at the 1972 Olympics. And then second, it was how well, I can't read the rest of it. But at any rate, I don't have the second comment. I do, on the developing of the Super 8 film. Even in the 70s, most TV stations had motion picture film development machines on site, so they could provide film at 11. They're both really great comments, and let's see, we're at the bottom of the list, so I'm going to go ahead and make my comments on that. First off, on JJ's comments involving the film and the Super 8 and getting it done. First off, I watched a while ago, gosh, it's several years ago, but it was pretty cool. It's over on YouTube, and it has to do with WCBS, I think it was one of the big three, WCBS or WNBC or WABC, and it had to do with local television stations doing the video. How do you get stuff out? How do you do it quickly? Well, they had the ability, and they send these guys out with scooters around New York, and they were able to get film developed. And they had what they called wet spools, I think is what it was. And literally, they would show this stuff on TV. They were still wet. They had not even developed after they had been, they weren't even dry after they had been developed. They were literally running through projectors and then shown on television. This is before the days of video. So it's technically possible to get that out, and that's what they were trying to say, that the old technology was there, the new technology, which is we're on the site, we're doing this sort of thing. CNN had only been in business for a couple of years, so they were trying to do the Johnny-on-the-spot thing. The way they did it, though, was more of a traditional way. They were coming up with these stories in the background and fully articulated the narrations and all of that, which to me did not make sense, only because today you can do that sort of thing in real time, and there's none of those cuts because we have the video in order to do that. We can go anywhere in the world with a camera and set it up to a satellite and send it down and be able to get things in real time. There was also the comment about compressed time. Yep, there was definitely that, and that did take you out of the moment, sort of like the old telephone 555-1212. Things were happening way too quickly for them to be able to have the actions the way they did, and it was a 24-hour period. But in the end, sort of, it reminds me of also that Series 24. Of course, it would take place over 24 episodes, so they can get away with it. They didn't have that, so they were able to, or not able to, make it more realistic in that regard. There was some comments from Frank. He mentioned about execution and how TV News does things. This one, and it also came from this program that I had watched several years ago, is that you point the camera in one direction, The camera is not being pointed in any other direction. Therefore, whatever you see is what you see. There was some comments from the terrorists, and they involved, you guys don't care, you just want to have a story. That's a yes and a no, because what happened was is that, yes, they had exclusive rights to the story, they're watching it, they're broadcasting it, and one of the terrorists went a little overboard and went personal on one of the hosts. Gosh, that would never happen today, would it? So the thing about it is that that sort of thing, the human thing, always comes into play. And you wonder what is drama, what is not, what is the demeanor of everyone on all sides, including the media. Let me reset. So in all of this, you got to ask yourself, are you informing the public? Are you not? Is there a way of being impartial in telling a story? And to me, and this is one of the things that Special Bulletin does, is it's not impartial. You have human emotions going on. Gosh, when the Hindenburg blew up, the guy who described it on the radio had to walk away, and he threw up and then came back with the humanity of it all. When man landed on the moon, you had Walter Cronkite, who just kind of was in tears when it occurred. When you had the thing that the Olympics with the Israeli weightlifting team, when they're killed, how does a person not respond? Everybody has emotions. You can't not be that way. And I think that's where this story really does shine, is towards the end, where there's the humanity. There is the where people are trying to understand what's going on and trying to put a human face on it, and then all of a sudden the whole thing blows up literally in everybody's face, and then we have to deal with it. Finally, my comments on this, and I'm surprised I went so long because I didn't think I would on this topic. But the last part is that as the story fades and they go on to the next part of it, it all becomes normal again. It just becomes a normal story. And I think I was most angry in the end thinking about it when the teletype's playing over the credits. We'd finally reached a point, okay, this is the new normal, let's move on. And it all became so pedestrian. That was the part that really affected me more than anything else. So those are my comments. I'll go ahead and ask if there's any additional check-ins at this point, and then we'll go to the top of the list. Anyone else who would like to join us this evening? We are talking about the TV movie called Special Bulletin from 1983. Please come now. All right, let's see here. Let us go. We're going to talk about characterization, the people involved in this thing, and there were plenty of them. Let's go to the top of the list, N5BB. Bill, what did you think about characterization, the people who appeared on screen in their various roles? Go ahead.
This is N5BB. Well, first I want to comment about some of the previous comments. The Super 8. Yeah, the Super 8 was used by many of the smaller television markets, and so they actually used it for filming events, taking them back and very quickly developing them and getting them on air. So I don't think that's a big problem. But with respect to Super 8 also, Kodak. Remember Kodak? You thought they were out of business. Believe it or not, they still exist. Kodak has announced it's going to be selling a Super 8 camera. It's a little slow. They started in 2016. It's not quite on the market yet. but they've shown prototypes, and they think it'll be $2,500 to $3,000. And they think they're going to release it by the end of this year. Whoopee. So it has an LCD viewfinder and some other modern things, but it is a film camera, and you'll be able to mail the film into Kodak, and they will develop it, scan it to digital, and send you back both the developed film and the scanned digital data. Wow. Okay, now, the characters. Well, the characters on the ship were all over the top. Every single one of them. But that was, that was by design, I believe. I thought it was a little bit extreme that one of the protagonists appeared to be mentally ill and from prison. And the other guy that he was in prison with was also, I think, borderline mentally ill. But still, to me, the characters, well, you weren't expected to have the regular characterization you would have in a regular movie, because this was supposed to be, simulating a real live television event. So we only got to see the characters when they were, acting out on TV, of course. So because of that, I can't really, blame them for not, developing the characters more fully. So I thought they were reasonable. I thought the news people were reasonable, although I thought the guy that went onto the ship, that newsman that went out and he got caught, right before that, he was doing some things that were stupidly crazy, dangerous, and he should never have put him and the cameraman in that much harm. To me, that looked like it was the only really over-the-top thing relative to the characters. Everything else, I think, was exactly what they were trying to do. Remember, well, most of you probably don't remember, but the Symbionese Liberation Army with Patty Hearst, there was a lot of weird stuff occurring back then. And then later, remember the O.J. Simpson chase? There was a lot of weird stuff that happened on TV, and a lot of weird characters that were trying to do things live and have an effect. So I think about half of this movie was about the effect of television, okay? It had nothing to do with the nuclear thing and everything. It was about television and live television and how that was going to affect things. The biggest thing this made me think about was an event that happened 18 years later, which was the airplanes hitting the World Trade Center. And I think we need to think about this movie in context with the World Trade Center and the way that played out on live TV. It's IBB.
Good, thank you, Bill. And on your last comment, one of the things that, and I'm just going to interject this is that, watching from New York, you see the Twin Towers in the background as part of their mosaic. I couldn't help but think about that. All right, I'm going to move on to KF5TSK. Burl, your comments on characterization.
Well, as far as characterization, one of the things that kind of struck me was the reporter that was on the tugboat. After the explosion, he was still reporting. I thought that was really wonderful. Another thing, it seemed like in making the movie, the only thing that didn't really seem real was, everyone running with guns. It was like, they're just plastic toys because, they were running and they were holding the muscles up in the air, and it's like, they weren't heavy or anything. It's like, it's just not real. We're just pretending. K5TSK back to net.
Hey, thanks, Burl. Interesting comment. I put an asterisk next to your name. KG5P, Mike, characterization.
Okay, well, a couple comments first. That RBS was mentioned. That was just a hypothetical CBS. If you look at Wikipedia, they don't even say what the R stands for, but it doesn't matter. It's just a hypothetical broadcast network. The other thing that I hadn't mentioned was the fact that they kept putting these disclaimers up saying that this is, fiction and is a realistic depiction and what you're actually seeing is not happening. It kind of reminded me of of course, I never saw the original H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, but they knew that they learned from that radio program that people do tend to, drop in and drop out, and so somebody could panic, I guess, if they didn't see this in context. As acting went and stuff, I thought that was the best part of the whole movie. I thought it could have been really bad, but it was convincing, I thought. Especially the ringleader, who was a doctor, but he was a political scientist or something like that. He wasn't he wasn't a nuclear guy like that other physicist or anything like that other guy was. There's very convincing dialogue and acting, and it could have gone easily just the other way. It could have been very stilted, and which would have destroyed the movie. But I really did like the acting. I really did. I thought it was great. For the most part. One part that I thought was kind of peculiar was when they had Susan, the co-anchor, the reporter, whatever she was. When she came on with a southern accent. Judy's from Alabama, and I'm pretty good at mocking one of them southern accents. And she started out like that. And I said, oh no, not another phony southern accent. But, in the next scene that she was back to speaking generic English. So I wasn't quite sure what that was about, but she didn't put on the southern accent for the whole movie. And I did have a problem with the nuclear scientist guy. Apparently he'd been poisoned by this 5 kilos of plutonium or something that he stole. Well, I've never worked around plutonium, but I've known people that have. And if he was that good of a scientist to cobble together a bomb, as sophisticated it was, he would know how to protect himself. Plutonium emits alpha particles, and alpha particles, which are basically are helium nuclei, they won't even penetrate the top layers of your skin. And you can hold plutonium in your hand. With plutonium is if it gets into, say, mucous membrane, or you inhale it, or it gets into a sore or something like that, then you got a problem. Then it's one of the most toxic substances known to man. But certainly he could have protected himself, which is easy enough to do with respirators, because people that work with plutonium do this all the time. But I really didn't have a problem with the acting. I thought it was very, very good, and it very easily could have been stilted and gone the other way, and that would have ruined the whole movie. So back to net, KG5P.
Mike, and this is KE5ICX, and we're talking about, what are we talking about? Special Bulletin, movie from 1983. So if you've seen it or you just saw it, that's okay. We'll come back to you in a little bit. KG5BZWJ, your comments on characterization.
there is a lot to say, but a lot of it's already been said as far as anything I can actually say. Did have I thought it was rather interesting, some of the, it seemed an awful lot like a few of the actors were trying to imitate other existing newscasters of the day. There's one that seemed to be, I don't know if it was a combination of would it be Dan Rather or Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather? It had an interesting kind of draw to him. I almost wish I knew more of the newscasters as the day to see what exactly they were actually trying to imitate. Of course, the reporters and newscasters weren't the only characters to the story, but yeah, and it was interesting to see the reporters and newscasters kind of change and develop, and I have to admit probably the most unbelievable characters, even though I thought they kind of kept to the range, kind of, it is believable enough, let's just put it that way, and let's not limit ourselves to what actually reality would allow, because we don't entirely know that, but I do think that the terrorists were maybe perhaps a little bit over the top, as Bill put it. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's like I'd have to probably write a paragraph of stuff and come out with a sentence of actual thing worth sharing. So I think I may have to leave it at that. I'm not sure if there's anything else I can really say, because a lot has already been said, and a lot has been said better than I think I can say it. So I think I've just kind of I'm lowering the signal to noise ratio at this point. So KG5BDW.
Jay, no problem there. I understand, and people bring touch points in, and it's reiteration. Our next round will be an open round, so take notes. If you got something you want to bring in after we finish this round, anything goes. So let me go ahead and go to NT5TM. Tony, your comments on characterization.
Yep, this is in a way a painful net because everyone keeps saying interesting things, but I'm getting so sleepy, so I'll try to be fast. Aaron and I both appreciated that the terrorists were insiders rather than foreigners. They didn't go for any stereotyping there with those characters. They were a little over the top, but they had very good flashes of realism. Aaron loved how the little bit of academic arrogance there when one of them brags, you know, what do you mean we can't build a bomb? We have 6 PhDs on this boat between us. That's to tie in with Brenda's comment about, you know, the Dirty Laundry song, and Tom yours about, you know, how things were moving on at the end. Aaron was very struck by that too, because part of this movie isn't characterizing the terrorists, it was characterizing us. Aaron mentioned, you know, 1 death is a tragedy, 1 million deaths is just a statistic. Even the terrorists are struck by the one Coast Guard person who dies, but they're okay with nuking a city. There's something very human about 1 death, and it's something that we all have. It's a sort of a fallacy or a pattern of behavior that we all have. A neat piece of art by accident, because art by accident is always an important part of filmmaking. real-life characterization, as they go back to normal, and as, okay, yes, Tom, as you said and as Aaron mentioned, it's become the new normal. It's just yesterday's news. We all move on. Part of the way the movie characterizes us. Some of the filler they use is about the solidarity movement in Poland, and while that was meant to seem like that perpetual thing that happens, oh yeah, those people are making noise again. In the long term, that turned out to be very important, so it was kind of a neat art by accident moment that Aaron reminded me of, that in the long term that was a very big deal, and she was happy they hit on that. NT5TM.
Good, thank you, Tony. The last part about the Poland shipyards and what happened there with the strikes and all of that, I'd completely forgotten about that. That was a real live thing that occurred. And how far do you take it? Well, Poland went on to secede from the Soviet rule. So I think that's fascinating. I'll stop here because we have more people. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, your comments on characterization.
WB5OZL. I thought that characterization was just spot on. Everybody acted just like you expect them to, and so I think it was just pretty adept. You think the crazy people are like kind of over the top, but there really are people like that. People who think let's kill an abortion doctor. Yeah, that'll do it. Or let's bomb the Pentagon because they're killing other people. It's like, it just doesn't make any sense to protest killing with more killing. The obviousness is just, you don't get it, do you? And these people, the terrorists, are a lot like the people out of the 60s, the weathermen, and I won't name any names, but some of the famous people who thought that the way to protest the war was by destruction and death and such as that. You think, well, is that really going to help? And then these terrorists have this idea that, well, let's just destroy our nukes, and therefore we'll be safe. Everybody else will destroy theirs too. There's enough nukes in the world to destroy us all many times. And I didn't quite understand the idea of, we'll get rid of ours and that'll bring peace. We'll put down our arms. No, putting down your arms is like surrendering. I don't think it's going to force the Russians to denuclearize themselves. So, these were definitely crazy people. And that kind of adds to the interest of the story because they were sort of unpredictable. All right, back to net. WB follows ZL.
Good. Thank you, Miss Brenda. 85 Sierra Echo. Chuck, your comments on characterization.
This is Alpha Delta 5 Sierra Echo. I don't have much to add. The movie lost me from the very start. I retired from the military back in 98. And at the opening, when the reporter's running towards that machine gun fire, that's where they lost me. I don't know how many people have been near live machine gun fire, but it's not something you go running towards. And then later on in the movie, you find out that a bunch of egghead scientists are now toting machine guns and capturing Coast Guard personnel. That's where the movie just lost me from the get-go. I didn't find it credible at all. And so, like I say, I just fast-forwarded to see if the bomb went off, and it did. I like the bomb explosion, and I'll leave it at that. Back to net.
Very good, Chuck. I think I got your call sign wrong. Alpha, Delta, and then I think it's Sierra Tango. Is that correct?
Negative. It's Alpha Delta 5 Sierra Echo Super Ego Super Ego.
Very good. Okay, I had that originally, and then I crossed it out because I thought I heard tango, but I heard echo. So even the phonetics don't work sometimes. Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate your comments, and I agree with you on the machine gun fire. That didn't make any sense. So I'm gonna stick with you on that one. Next up is David W5EVB. Your comments on characterization.
Well, in general, the characters were believable. They played their roles correctly, properly, believably. But just in terms of the logic of the characters, the folks on the boat should have never had any expectation that their demands would be yielded to. That was just a pie in the sky. You know, that could never happen. Any government has a no concession policy to terrorists. Don't give in to their demands. So really, the PhDs didn't, as smart as they were, really didn't think this through very well. The news anchors, you know, they stuck to the news reporting and stuck to the scripts when it was appropriate to, and then they would express empathy and compassion when they were supposed to. They can switch it on like a light, and that's their job. Now, one character you never see is the cameraman until one still image at the end, which was kind of unusual, but, well, not really, because the only thing you can see is in front of the camera, not behind it. And analogously, we can never see what's going on behind or to the side or anywhere except what is in the field of view of the camera. Who knows what's going on in the periphery? The other large group of characters in this movie are the people in the evacuation centers and you know, all of the mayhem concordant with that evacuation, and that's the pattern for most news stories even today. There is the story, but that's just a small percentage of what's covered. It's the human element of non-participants, of the ancillary tangential effects that it has, and the people who express their opinions of what's happening. That's what gets the main bulk of coverage. And one reason for that, I think, editorial, I think, is because if people who are watching it aren't sure what to think, there are hordes of people that can be selectively interviewed to tell people what they should think. W5EBB.
Excellent comments. Next up, KG5 Zulu November Juliet Frank. Your comments on characterization.
Oh, well, I would say that, you know, those 5 PhDs, well, that just proves that putting a sheepskin on the wall doesn't make you very smart. So, kind of dumbasses there. The characterization that was not there, where were the police? You know, this bunch of terrorists come in with a nuclear bomb, and the cops didn't show up. You know, it was these anchors in tweed sports coats managing the crisis directly. They were calling the shots. They were doing all the negotiation. You know, no local police, no FBI, no nothing. You know, whoever else would show up. They didn't show up. So I'm guessing they did that for budgetary reasons. They just didn't have the budget for, you know, military vehicles and police and all that. But I think they missed out there because that might have been something good to have the whole negotiation piece with the authorities, with these people with the bomb. That would have made it a much better film, I guess. You know, the only police I remember seeing was they arrested the terrorist lady, and they booked her like a drunk driver and drove off in one police car. That was it. So that was the police presence I remember. I didn't recognize a single actor in that film, really, other than the great Lane Smith, who played Morton Sanders, which was like an opinion reporter. He was a great character actor from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He was in Dallas. He was in the TV series V, if you remember that in the 80s. That was awesome. He was a character in that. He was in the Rockford Files, and he was also in Red Dawn. And the best characters of all were the casting choice of Larry, Curly, and Moe as the Nest team. That's it from me.
And thank you, Frank. And I gave you the wrong call sign, Zulu November Juliet. And I called you somebody else because you sound exactly like him, same personality. But fantastic comments. Let's see. Next up, KF5PDS, Miss Billy, what did you think of the characterization?
Yeah, I agree with what everybody else has said. Yeah, the characters I thought were right on. It was interesting to watch the change in the anchors. You know, like everybody was saying, they were very stoic, but the news very matter-of-factly with the pronunciation and everything. And then after the bomb goes off, you know, you can see the mood deteriorate. They start to lose their tempers. The lady anchor, she was, you know, overtly emotional, crying and stunned and shocked. But then, of course, at the end, back to business as usual. They had gotten over the shock and horror of it all, and now it's just news, just another news item. I did think that the solidarity thing at the end was cool because that was when all that was going on, so that was very current news. And interesting fact that as I was looking things up, later on in December of '83, Lech Walesa, who was the leader of the Solidarity Movement and founder, he received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1983, same year that this movie came out. So I thought that was really interesting. So that really gives to the credence and the believability and the realism when you're including real, current news items of the day. That would have been, made easy for somebody to tune in and think they were watching something real. I thought that the kind of the War of the Worlds, disclaimer, putting that on there. And I think there were still people in Charleston that were freaked out that probably tuned in after the fact and missed those disclaimers. And I was reading some broadcasts, they actually put the word fiction or dramatization on the screen at all times after the initial broadcast so people would realize they were watching a work of fiction. And I agree. I thought it was interesting that they chose, to have educated members, people that you would, upstanding members of our community, very highly educated, but they knew their stuff about physics, but they were very smart in the ways of academia, but very, not smart in the ways of human nature. And so this shows that you can be, good with some things and then turn around, flip side of the coin, not understand human nature. And that, we can destroy ourselves. We don't need any outside influence. We can do the jobs ourselves. So I thought that, kind of hit that point home, that we could just have homegrown terrorists, and we could terrorize ourselves pretty effectively without any outside influence. I was looking up something else with regards to actors. Yeah, Lane Smith, I picked up on him immediately. He's a great character actor. I love him. But also I recognized Peter Hobbs, who played Herman, who was General Sparks in Andromeda Strain. And also another familiar face in this film was Michael Madsen. I'm trying to look up his character's name real quick. Jimmy Lennox was played by Michael Madsen, who, of course, became a very well-known actor later on, most notably in my memory was for Reservoir Dogs and also in the Kill Bill franchise, playing Bud. So there were some familiar faces in there, just you had to know where to look, and you didn't see them till later on in the film. So it was good to see those familiar faces. But yeah, I thought the characterization was right on. I really liked the characters, the way they developed, and the actors they got to play them. Thought it was very well portrayed. So with that, I'll return it to you. This is KF5PDS, back to net.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Billy, and excellent comments. Let me go down to KC5OZT. Miss Carolyn, your comments on characterization.
I basically agree with what everybody said, but I was sort of struck by one of the terrorists, that lady that you got the idea she was decided to leave. You know, you begin, I thought maybe she was going to escape, you know, and but then she decided to stay, you know, but it made him seem a little bit more human, you know, to realize maybe they weren't all agreeing, you know, or beginning to not agree with what they were doing. And then, of course, like everybody said, the news anchors, you know, and the guy showing, he thought they would have had the president on more, but I was sort of expecting that, but they didn't, which was sort of odd. Well, I mean, they just didn't think it had enough sense, but anyway, I liked all of the characters, the way they were played, you know. H5OZT.
All right, thank you, Miss Carolyn, and this is KE5ICX. This turned out to be a really interesting discussion. Let's see, I'll make my comments, and then I'll go ahead and I asked, let's see, some folks if they would like to share their comments, which they made over on chat. We usually get the same folks who actually comment here on voice also show up over in the chat window. So I'll read what I asked that they do in a minute here. As far as characterization, I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed the characters. I thought it was a bit stilted at the very beginning, but that's the idea. You're talking about these folks who are representing a network or a local TV station, and they go through and they do their little thing to appear favorable to the audience, and I'm sure they had a lot of things that told them how they were supposed to act, and as such they do, until things turn against them in this whole thing with the bomb. And how do they react, and how do they perform under those circumstances? I have to say, there are many times that I've watched the news, and I see people that totally go into the blank mode. I also see people who actually go into the beat reporter mode. It all depends on who they are and where they came from and how they act. But again, they are people, and that's something that we got to take into consideration whenever they give a story. W5FC. And I'll agree with that. And this is KE5ICX. Is how do you handle all of that? And it's not easy, especially when you see news teams, anchors that go on for hours and hours. How do they respond? Will they become human beings after a while because they have no other choice. It wears them down. So I think that this film did a very good job of that. It started out looking artificial, and I think that was on purpose. And then as it went on, it became more authentic. Yeah, there were technical aspects of the film that didn't work. I get that. But I think the acting, and a lot of these folks have gone on, or had gone on, to do some significant work. In fact, one of the people, I can't recall who it is now, is actually actively involved on Man in the High Castle, one of the major characters in that. So they are, we're talking years later, from 1983, these people have gone on and done some really interesting things as actors. So the whole thing is there. And I think that it was well done in the end. The more I think about this film, the more I think about this film. KE5ICX, let me reset. I probably should stop there. Let's see here. I did get a comment, if I can read this thing. I don't have my glasses. My glasses aren't here, but let me see. Hold on just a second.
BB, Tom got through a few comments in before we closed.
I'll let you in because I can't read this. I've got to make it bigger so I can see it. So go ahead with your comments, and then we're going to go into we're going to open it up at that point. Anybody has additional comments. So go ahead, Bill. You can start it off.
Okay, that was the top of the list anyway. This is N5BB. RBS. People wonder where that come from. It turns out there really is an RBS. It is a television network in southern Brazil. Okay? I seriously doubt that's why they called it this. But RBS existed before 1983. So there. The actor who was the guy who built the bomb, when he was going down into that area to show him what the bomb looked like, remember he was climbing downstairs, he mumbled something about he had some software that simulated how the people would react. It was something about the people will react. So somebody made a comment earlier about these guys didn't understand how the world would treat them, but he made a comment there acting like he thought he did from a computer simulation. One other comment about the actors, I did recognize, of course, Peter Hobbs and Michael Madsen, but also John Walsh, the guy made most famous for his television, America's Most Wanted. He was somewhere in there. I see him listed on the credits. Another details I just discovered, Ed Flanders, who was the John Woodley character, and the other major male actor, the Christopher Alport, who was Stephen Levitt, the reporter. They both died rather young. They were both 60 years old. Ed Flanders committed suicide, and Christopher Alport was killed in a snow avalanche. That's all in 5BB.
All right, thanks, Bill. And you're right about all those comments in the backstory. I read those as well. Let's see here. Let's see. N5IMS says reporting is hard and has to be right 100% by the time. While commentary is easy, it doesn't have to be right at all. It's just an opinion after all. Then W5EBB says reporting should be right all the time, and it can be if someone in charge demands it. Consider Frank Reynolds' comment on air directed to those reporting the Reagan assassination attempt. Thought that's interesting. And then it says, IMS says, the news people were realistic with one significant exception. In real life, based on my TV experience anyway, just prior to air, every live reporter checks their outfits here and verify that everything's there. Okay, so I think some of these comments, I can't put them in context at this point. I'm getting tired too. But in the end, I think that all of these characters and all these folks want to somehow, tell a story and tell it as faithfully as they can. And as their human character creeps into the story, they have to somehow conceptualize that and compartmentalize it and then give it to the people who are listening or watching. And that is really tough to do. In the end, it's all a question of how well you can produce all of these items in a way that is acceptable to an audience and somehow transcends the events in such a way that it can be coherent and understandable and digestible in terms. That's a really tough thing to do. I just don't see how everybody can do this week after week, night after night, and be able to do it faithfully and sincerely in a way that is satisfying to everyone. I think the answer is they can't. So that's just the way it is. That's kind of how I felt about it. And picking this film was really kind of weird because I looked at it and went, yeah, I remember seeing it. And I remember it as being superficial, but it's not anything like that. It's not superficial. It gives you time to think and make you digest what you're seeing, and then you've got to figure it out. It's not real, but it could be real. The people are not real, but they act in realistic ways. The storyline could be real, but it's not yet. How do you react to all that stuff? So that's what I got out of this film, and that's my comments. I'll take final check-ins and final comments. Please come now. Everyone fell asleep, or they don't want to comment. Let's see. I got to figure out what next week's movie is. I put it into the box. Give me a second here. I'll tell you what it is. All right, here we go. Everyone, you may have to pay for this one. It's Moon from 2009. It is available on Netflix, or I think it is. If that turns out not to be the case, I'll send you an email out to tell you otherwise, or the Afterglow Movie Net. If you'd like to be a part of the email list, just send an email to KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray, at yahoo.com, and I'll find it and I'll put you on the list. If you're on Facebook and you don't mind being on Facebook, just go to Afterglow Movie, that's 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, and let me know that you're interested, and you'll get all of the links there as well. So I want to thank everybody who participated this evening, and I'm very happy that everybody did. With all the comments that they did. So this is KE5ICX. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. It's 12:16. Long evening. 7-3, everybody. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. KE5ICX. I'm clear.
I was the only strange one up at this hour. KC0 QA Mobile.
Right, inside BB.
Well, like part of it as I was moping along, I'm on 45 headed north underneath the bridge, and started hearing something. Couldn't really make out a whole lot of it. Got a little closer and got a little easier to make out. I got right in on the tail end of it. What kind of net we running here?
Well, first a question. By the way, my name is Bill, inside BB. Do you live in the DFW area or North Texas?
Yeah, okay. Sounds like you guys were talking about a movie or a book or something.
Yeah. Do you live in this area or are you just passing through?
Oh, I'm just passing through.
Okay. Every Saturday night, we have a bunch of nets here. These are run by the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, but anybody can check in. On every night of the week, we have a net at 6:30 to about 7, which is a traffic net, National Traffic System. On Saturday nights at 7 p.m. till about 8, we have something called TechNet. We talk about technical things. Could be about electronics, radio, ham radio, anything related to ham radio and electronics. That's TechNet, 7 to 8 p.m. roughly. And then from 9 to 10:30 p.m., we have Skynet. We talked about everything up in the sky. Astronomy, amateur radio, space, other government space things, anything involving astronomy and space-related things. Then at 10:30 on Saturday night, we have the Afterglow, which is, we discuss every week a movie. They're usually science fiction kind of movies, but sometimes not, but usually they're kind of science fiction movies. Happens every